I'm joined by my colleague, Rhett Matthew of the Cannon Fire podcast, and we're going to be talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers injury report in their Week 9 matchup versus the LA Rams. Rhett, how you doing today, man?
Doing good. Pleasure to be here. Been a minute since I have been on your channel. I know I fill in for the live stuff, but glad to be doing videos again.
Absolutely, man. I don't remember the last time we've done a video together specifically. It's been like a handful of months, man. But
Yeah, I don't think it's been since the off season or the end of last season.
right. So we do have some stuff I want to talk about in this video today. This is per Greg Allman of The Athletic, by the way, on Twitter. The Bucs have came out with their final injury report for the Bucs versus Rams in week number 9, and there's some interesting names on here, Rhett. So firstly, Cameron Brate, Russell Gage, Luke Gedeke, and the big one, Antoine Winfield Jr. are all listed as out for this week 9 matchup. Now, Rhett, firstly, in the case of Cam Brate, obviously, K. Dotton and Co. Keefe will step up as they have continued to do already. Russell Gage, he's been dealing with some hamstring injuries going all the way back to training camp. Me and you were actually there whenever he initially injured his hamstring. So that is still continuing to hamper him. Definitely expect more targets for guys like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, Brashad Perriman, among others. Luke Gedeke is kind of a new addition to being out. Nick Leverett is slated to be the starting left guard now, so a huge opportunity for him. And then finally, Antoine Winfield Jr., that's huge. He's been instrumental in the success of this secondary, especially as a nickel corner. You look for maybe Sean Murphy bunting, maybe Mike Edwards, whatever they need to do. They have a lot of different options there. So initially here, your thoughts on these four players being listed as out.
Yeah, you brought it up as the big one, Antoine Winfield Jr. I think the most surprising thing is just that he hasn't cleared concussion protocol for the second week in a row. And, he had the short week against the Ravens, probably knew he wasn't going to be available during that game. And then they get a little bit of an extra break here coming into the Rams game. And you thought maybe he'd be off of the men. He seems to be in good spirits in the locker room, but he won't be ready. So, honestly, I'm not looking too much into it. It is a big loss at the secondary position. Sorry. It is a big loss for the secondary coming into this one, but hopefully he should be back. I think this should be the last game he misses. If he does miss any more, maybe some more cause for concern, but I think we should be all good come this time next week. Luke Gedeke at the left guard position. Nick Leverett got the start on Thursday Night Football, and we saw how that played out. He was the second highest graded offensive player for Tampa Bay. So I'm going to have my eyes on this one because I think a lot is going to be said about this coaching staff if Luke Gedeke is cleared of his injury here in 2 or 3 weeks, and then we're all the way back to square one talking about, well, who should be the left guard, Luke Gedeke or Nick Leverett? And at this point, in my opinion, I'm excited to see what Leverett can do because I feel like as far as the rest of the season goes, that job should be his until he loses it, right? Um, I think Leverett brings a little more ferocity to that left guard position. We saw the run game open up a little bit better in that first quarter against Baltimore. I know the offense ultimately stalled out, but there were a lot of things wrong outside of the offensive line. So I think Leverett can bring a little bit of juice to that position, and I'm excited to see that unfold. Who are the other guys on that list?
Gage and Brate.
Yeah, Russell Gage, it's a little disappointing because he's kind of been fighting this injury all year. And even when he's been playing, he's been getting targeted. They haven't really sent him on any long, elaborate routes. Like there were a couple of times he was open way back in week 2 against New Orleans on some long developing routes. But since then, his role has diminished into, even smaller than what it is now. So, I mean, this one's tricky. Hamstrings are always tricky with wide receivers, but for a guy that the Bucs are paying $10 million a year for, I'm sure this isn't the best news for them to have right now. But Julio Jones has been playing, so that's what I'm going to be taking a look at is, Russell Gage is now on the mend, and we've been complaining about Julio Jones missing a bunch of action, and he has a chance to make up for it these last couple of weeks with him actually being a presence out there on the field. So will his production go up this week? I don't know, because between Russell Gage and Julio Jones, I don't think there's too much production to be found with those guys, but maybe this is one of those weeks where Julio has to step up and the offense can find a little more of a rhythm because I know the Rams are not playing great, but schematically, it's never been that great of a matchup for Tampa Bay. So I'm curious to see if this is another week where the offense can maybe figure out how to put some points on the board. I don't know. We'll see. But Julio Jones, I think, going to be a big part of that passing attack, depending on how involved he is in the game plan.
Yeah, and just taking a look too real quick. So Tom Brady had some rest days on Thursday. He's going to play, of course. Levante David, he had a rest day on Friday. He is going to obviously play. Mike Evans had a rest day on Friday. He's also dealing with an ankle injury. All indications are going to be that he's going to play. Similar things can be said for Will Golston, Julio Jones, like you mentioned, and Shaq Mason. But the three kind of interesting possible returns seems like these guys are slated to return now, Rhett, and I want your thoughts on these. Carlton Davis with a hip injury. He was a full participant all week this week. It seems like he is going to return into the mix. Akiem Hicks is a full participant in practice on Wednesday and Thursday. He had a rest day on Friday. Seems like he's finally going to be making his return after spending over a month on the shelf with a foot injury. And then finally, Sean Murphy Bunting with a quad injury. He was full go all week this week. Seems like he is going to be participating as well. With those three guys, all three defensive guys, and two starters in the case of Davis and Hicks, what is the return going to look like for them in terms of the impact?
Akiem Hicks is the guy that I look at the most. Like Carlton Davis, it seems like a pretty open and shut case. Like that's your number one corner. So getting him back to shadow some of the more talented receivers that LA has. Hopefully Todd Bowles has it in his game plan to cover Cooper Kupp this week. And I can imagine that's going to be quite a bit of work for Carlton Davis, but that's what you pay him for, right? So happy to have him back. And the rest of the secondary is going to be happy to have him back as well. SMB, a little more of a rotational guy throughout the year. His snap count has been down so far this season, but with the absence of Logan Ryan and, of course, Antoine Winfield Jr., we'll see what kind of position he winds up in this week, especially once the snap count comes out, if he is as healthy as he seems to be. But Akiem Hicks, like that is the biggest wild card in these returning from injury guys, at least as far as this week goes, because we talked about the pass rush, who still have a ton of sacks on the year. But overall, I would say, we have talked a few times up until this point in the season about guys like Vita Vea, his general productivity slowing down, and how maybe sometimes he needs another guy next to him to eat up a double team every now and again so he can get after the quarterback. So I'm curious to see how that's affected. I'm also curious to see how the run defense is affected, because Akiem Hicks, before he went down, how long ago did you say it was? Over a month now? It
It's been
seems like he's
over a
been.
month.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this run defense can hopefully change their ways, because since he has left, it seems like it has just progressively gotten worse every single week. So hopefully some things get cleaned up, but I'd like to see this pass rush put in a little bit more work when they're running, heavy sets. When you've got both Akiem Hicks and Vita Vea lined up over your center, it's gonna be a tough day figuring out who to block. May take him a little bit to get healthy, but I'd like to see if he can make a difference coming back into this one. That should be a huge breath of fresh air for this defensive line, considering they just lost Shaq Barrett.
Yeah, no, for sure. So obviously, folks, that is it for your injury report here for the Bucs Week 9 matchup versus the LA Rams. Rhett, thank you again for being on. You're going to be on here for the next couple of videos that we have on the channel, talking about some other topics. So for anybody who has not done so already, go check out Rhett's channel at the Cannon Fire Podcast. Go give them a subscription. They just passed 4,000 subscribers here on YouTube. So congratulations to you guys for that. Absolutely awesome stuff. And anyway, folks, let us know your thoughts and opinions about this injury report down in the comment section below. A little bit more of a positive one. Definitely, probably one of the more positive injury reports we have had in quite a little while now. So we'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on this. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. We will see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.